Welcome back. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make this painted buttercream cake. I'm using 3 6-inch cake layers, and I used my go-to vanilla layer cake recipe to create them. So since this cake is much smaller than my normal cakes, I'm using a half batch of that recipe, and I'm frosting it with 1 batch of my classic American buttercream. I wanted to create an ombre effect with these cake layers, and I did that just by varying how much gel food coloring I added into my cake batter. So I divided my batter evenly between 3 bowls, and then I adjusted how much food coloring each bowl had until I was happy with the color of the batter. Once the layers were baked up, I stacked them, and then began to work on my crumb coat. So just like always, I like to add a crumb coat to my cakes and chill it before I add my second thicker layer of frosting. And this just helps ensure that you get really nice smooth sides on your cake, and that is super important on this cake since we're going to be painting straight onto the buttercream. If you guys want to see an in-depth tutorial with all my tips and tricks on how I frost a cake with perfectly smooth sides, you can click the link in the upper right corner. I'm adding a really thick second layer of frosting because I find that it's easiest to get a really smooth finish when you're generous with your frosting. Once the sides were smooth, I chilled the cake in the fridge for about 25 minutes until it was really firm to the touch. And this is really important because it needs to be firm in order for you to paint on it. The pattern that I'm painting on the cake today is inspired by this dress. I got it at H&M, and I really just love the different flowers that are on it and the different shades of blue. So I'm using a little bit of vodka and of course some navy blue gel food coloring to paint on this cake. So in the beginning I'm going to start with just some outlines and some light shading with a lighter mixture which has more vodka and less gel food coloring. And once I have those in place, I'm going to let that first layer dry, and I'll slowly build on top of it with additional layers of darker shades of gel food coloring. I have painted on buttercream with gel food coloring once before, but I've never done a pattern quite this intricate, so this was definitely a big challenge for me. I learned a lot in the process though, and it really comes down to having patience and taking your time. I set the dress on the counter right next to me, and I looked at it while I was painting, and I really just tried to use that as a reference and enjoy the process. As I was painting, I had to stop several times because the buttercream is going to slowly warm up to room temp, and it's going to lose its firmness. And you'll definitely notice when it gets to that point, and it's fine if it does. You just need to pop the cake back into the fridge for about 20 minutes to firm up again, and then you can continue painting. I started off with painting what I thought would be the easiest flowers, and I slowly worked my way up to the more challenging ones that had more petals or more intricate shading. And I found that I really did enjoy painting a few types more than others, but I really just tried to have fun with it and remind myself that it didn't have to be exactly like the dress. It really was just inspired by it, and that kind of helped me calm down. I think a lot of us that like to bake are very type A and kind of perfectionist, and you can get caught up sometimes in that, but you just need to let loose sometimes and have a little bit of fun. Or at least that's what I told myself, as some of my flowers went a little bit awry. So this definitely was a labor of love, and even though it doesn't actually require a ton of active time, just between having to take the cake in and out of the fridge to let it refirm up, it took several hours, which I was pretty surprised by. I chose to make these cake layers small and use 6-inch cake layers because it would reduce the amount of surface area I had to paint, but it still took a long time. I can't imagine how long it would have taken if it was a larger cake. As you guys can see here, I'm building on top of my first layer of paint with a second darker layer. So this is straight gel food coloring. It's a navy blue shade of AmeriColor. And on this cake, I actually ended up using 2 different dark blue shades of gel food coloring. And you can't really tell at this stage, but once we get to the end, I think you'll be able to see that one is a little bit brighter. But I didn't really mind because when you look at the dress, it has a lot of different shades of blue, so I kind of liked that it had a little bit of variety. I began by working on the sides of the cake, and while I thought it was a good idea to do this on a spinning cake stand, I actually think it would have been much easier if I had done it on a stationary cake stand, or even just straight on the counter. So something I'll try next time. I took a break partway through and actually painted the top of the cake, and then I went back to finishing up the sides. The last step was to fill in the petals with a little bit of a lighter blue that was a mixture of vodka and gel food coloring. And that's it. Several hours later, you can see my cake matches my dress. Being my neurotic self, I was so happy that I had a blue knife and a blue cake plate that I could put this slice on. So I cut in, and I was really obsessed with those ombre cake layers, and just really happy with how this cake turned out. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click the like button, and don't forget to let me know what cakes you'd like to see next.